Well, hi, folks, and welcome into another edition of This Week in Pearl. I'm your host, Frank Hutton, and today I have a really nice lineup for you. Our guest today, coming in with Representative Gene Newman, is Representative Lance Varner, freshman from District 62. Now in his second year serving as as representative over there, as representative in the State House. So I'm looking forward to introducing him to you. So don't go anywhere. When we come back, we will be joined by them. So stay right there. We'll be right back.
Hello, I'm Mayor Wyndham, and I'm thrilled to show you the city creating its own future. Pearl is located in Rankin County, the fastest growing county in Mississippi, and there's no question why. Access to great schools, even better shopping, and unbridled beauty make Pearl a town that truly embodies its name. And with a truly exceptional team of first responders, public safety is another key component of our success. With fantastic housing opportunities from quaint suburban neighborhoods to gorgeous lakefront properties, there's a place for you here in Pearl. You can't beat the location. Right outside of Pearl is the crossroads of the South, where Interstate 20 meets Interstate 55. From here you can travel anywhere within the state or the country. Or you can choose to stay right here in Pearl or experience the small town atmosphere, community pride, and heart of the local residents.
Hi, folks, and welcome into This Week in Pearl. Going under the dome now with our wonderful esteemed colleagues. We're going to have a special guest. I'm going to bring them in today. Gene Newman, our representative, is brought with us. The old regular. But we're introducing to you, to our audience today, District 62, Lance Varner.
Yeah, it's good to see you guys. We're glad to be here.
How you doing?
Doing good, man.
Welcome
doing
into
good.
The show.
Yeah, I'm excited, man. We love Pearl, man. I'm a Brandon boy now, so I'm a Brandon Bulldog. But
that's okay.
I'm glad to be in Pearl today.
We will hold that against you.
Right. We will definitely hold that against you. I mean, everybody's got to be from somewhere.
That's exactly right.
It's good to be away from there anyway, isn't it?
But we're just glad Pearl's in Rankin County. That's amazing.
Absolutely. Well, so you're a freshman congressman.
I am.
Not a congressman.
I mean, a freshman representative. Excuse me. Freshman representative.
Yes.
You're a freshman representative.
That's right.
First time. Now, why did you want to run for State House?
Well, I'm gonna tell you the story. I was sitting in Applebee's, minding my own business with my family, and Tom Weathersby, the sitting representative at the time, was there 32 years. Good friend with Mr. Rogers, that was a longtime representative that was here.
Great friend of mine.
Yeah, great man. And Tom Weathersby stopped me and he said, "Lance, would you ever consider running for representative?" And I told him, "No way. I never thought about it. It never crossed my mind." And I went home that night. My wife asked me, "So what do you think?" I said, "I've never thought about it, and because he was talking about retiring, Mr. Tom was. We prayed about it, thought about it for a while, and after thinking about it, we decided, hey, let's give it a little more thought. Well, he called me back and he said, "Lance, I'd love for you to be my representative." And when the city representatives want you to be his representative, that means a lot. And so that was when I really put a lot more prayer into it, thought about it. And my wife said, "Well, who else is going to represent us if you don't?" I said, "Well, you got a good point." So that's how we got in the race. I never even stepped foot in the Capitol before I got elected. Just to give you an idea, I was not a politician. A lot of my friends thought I should be a politician because I like to talk, but I never was a politician. Yeah, that's right.
We'll cover that in a minute.
That's right. That's exactly right. And so, but yeah, so here we are, and man, I'm glad to be there. I'm glad to be a part of it, and glad to be with great people like Gene and some others that I feel there's some really good ones up there, and so I'm excited to serve with them. So.
There are some really wonderful people there.
There are.
That you mentioned, and they sit in that chair sometimes.
Exactly.
And we get to have them. All right, so first time we're having you, first time you and I have ever met. So tell me a little bit about Lance. Who are you? Where do you come from? Who's mom and them? And the wife and the kid. Tell us your journey to get here.
Well, I was raised in Brandon, Mississippi. When I was born in Brandon, went to Brandon all my life, all the way through 12th grade. Mm-hmm. My parents were from that area as well. My dad was old railroad man. My mom was a nurse, and they worked real hard all their life, and to get us in a good spot. And fast forward, I got out of, I was planning on taking my dad's construction company over. And the Lord had different plans, called me in the ministry, and I ended up becoming a youth pastor, and I served in that capacity for about, 23, 24 years, 25 years before and became a pastor as well. And in the meantime, met my wife from Delo, Mississippi. I don't know if everybody knows where Delo is, but first time my wife told me she was from Delo, Mississippi, I said, "D what? Where is that at?" And so that's where I met her, and so real blessed. And her brother is Brad White, the transportation executive of the transportation Mississippi Department of Transportation, and so that was close to politics I ever want to get to was through Brad White. Like I didn't have any plans on getting involved myself. My brother-in-law was close as I wanted to be.
Sure.
And I never knew that I would end up running and do that. But I met my wife. We got 2 great kids. I've got a fixing to be 18-year-old daughter that's graduating this Friday night, headed to Mississippi State. I'm going to be. She's going to get her degree in agribusiness, minor in policy, law and policy, and get her law degree. She thinks she wants to get involved in politics. So I don't know where she's getting that thought from. And I got a 14-year-old son, and he's loves tennis, playing tennis, and just they're both very smart kids. Been very blessed, and my wife's a counselor at Brandon Middle School in Brandon, so she's involved with education and. Which is a whole nother factor, that I'm definitely got some passion about on that scale. But so that's kind of my life, and then in the middle of all that, I did become an auctioneer, and so I became an auctioneer, started an auction company, and we do auctions and do liquidate estates and businesses or whatever needs liquidating. We do that as well, called Auction 18. So. That's kind of I'll give you a real quick rundown so you can ask me any questions about it. No,
that's a quick rundown.
So that's.
So let's talk about, you come out of school and you go to be a youth pastor. Tell me a little bit about that. What decision brought you to that?
Yeah.
Barter Construction, I know the name.
Yeah.
So instead of growing with Dad, what sent you down that path?
Well, I tell you, I went to a camp. I graduated high school, went to a camp that summer, and I wasn't even going to go. A friend of mine said, "Look, I know you feel like you're too old to go to a youth camp. Why don't you just go with me?" And I said, so I went with them, and I went to the camp, and man, it was crazy, man. I was sitting there at the camp, and you just got some heavy conviction on me that I wasn't living the way I needed to live at that time, and a guy got a hold of my heart and changed my heart on where I was, and man, I don't remember what the preacher was preaching about. I just know the Holy Spirit convicted me about some things, and from that moment on, God started changing my heart on some things in my life, and didn't know it's a call to ministry, but it became the call to ministry at that time in my life, and so it went about 6 months, a year later. A little small church called me. I was going to Hines Community College. A little church called me and said, "Look, we heard you surrender the ministry. We'd love for you to come be our youth pastor." I showed up to this church thinking I was coming for a view of a call for a youth pastor. The pastor says, "Hey, here's a hymn book. You're also going to be the music pastor." And I said, "Sir, I didn't sign up for the music pastor position." And but I did. I ended up waving my arm around. Didn't know what I was doing. I don't know how they kept rhythm. I just did whatever. It was terrible. And but they kept me on for a couple of years. I went and then I met my wife in the meantime, and I needed a full-time position. That was a little part-time position. I was still going to college at the time, and I went to Crossroads Baptist in Pillahatchee, where I spent 2 years as full-time youth pastor. And then it wasn't about, after 2 years, I got the call to go to First Baptist Florence to be their children's pastor, work with their upper basketball camps, VBS, and all the programs they had. And when I got to First Baptist, I didn't know I'd end up spending 15 years of my life there. Right. Which I did. I served 15 years at First Baptist Florence, and so that's the reason I was so connected to the people of Florence, Mississippi, because I was blessed to baptize. I think we figured one day it was over 200-something kids that I was able to baptize in those years, and many funerals I was part of, and different things I was part of, because I was doing life with these people, doing life with the people of Florence, Mississippi, and so it naturally fit when it came down to me to be asked to run. For the legislature. So it was a natural fit, because I did life with these people. They knew who I was. They trusted me. I trusted them, and they voted me in. So there it is. So they trusted me to be there, and I hope I keep their trust and keep earning their trust. So
well, that's wonderful. Now that district encompasses Florence. What's the
It's
line?
Florence, Richland, and then it takes in a little bit of Crystal Springs. It takes
Okay.
in the city, the little town, city of Crystal Springs.
Mm-hmm.
And it takes in when I'm talking about Simpson County, we're talking takes one little where Old Pearl is. It takes a little bit of Old Pearl into Simpson County, which is I mean I'm talking about I think only 40 or 50 votes came out
You
of
don't
there.
even got, you
Yeah,
don't
I mean.
even have the whole box. do you?
No. I mean, it's the box is split down there, so it's a very small part of Simpson County. But but I would mainly, but it still has on there Simpson County, Pike County, Rankin County is who I serve there.
Is your area?
Is our people?
Oh,
yeah,
I got it.
Yeah.
All right, so there's a lot of fun things to talk about.
Oh,
here,
yeah,
but
yeah.
I do want to talk about the auctioneer thing.
Yes. Yeah.
So you're a youth pastor,
That's
First
right.
Baptist Florence. Everything's going great. And how did we go from I'm youth pastoring to I'm auctioning off grandma's stuff? How in the world did that happen?
Good question. Good question. So my wife and I, we bought 82 acres in Harrisville, Mississippi, which is in Simpson County, and we bought it as a kind of an investment property. My father-in-law ended up moving down there and lived in the house because we built a new house in Florence, so we knew we didn't need to move down there, but he moved in the house. But the two houses that were on the property was full of antiques, full of stuff, and we didn't know what to do with it, right? So we started using Craigslist, 'cause that was what was popular back then.
Of course, you're right.
I'm aging myself a little
Right,
bit.
that's before Facebook Marketplace.
Facebook was barely starting to come along,
right?
And so we were just trying to sell it and get rid of the stuff. And a friend of mine told me to go to an auction, and I took some auction, and it wasn't the best it wasn't the best auction you could ever go to. So we decided, I said, man, it'd be cool if somebody opened up their own auction house. And so my dad had a construction building that he wasn't using over on 18, and so we basically cleaned it out. No air conditioning, just some portacools and some fans. And we started an auction house out of there called Auction 18. We did it once a month while I was still working at First Baptist, just kind of as a hobby, kind of a side thing. And we started selling everything we had on that property.
Sure.
Well, you just kept selling. Well, the crowd kept on coming. It was 75 to 100 people every week. Kept on coming and buying this stuff. And so I said, well, hang on, I got to find buyers. So I started finding people that are sellers. I started getting people to bring stuff to the auction, and we sold on percentage, and it just kept going. And then and basically when I left First Baptist, I took on one part I left off earlier when I was talking to you, is that I took on a little church called Calvary Baptist in Braxton as a little bivocational position as a pastor. When I did, I took my salary went in half. So I went from making this amount to half that amount to take this little church on. So then I said, I got to figure out a way to make up the difference. And so that's kind of when I started trying to figure out a way to make the auction house a full-time gig, I guess you would say. So, and we did. And so we went through, built a brand new building in Brandon, air-conditioned heated building, nice place out there in Brandon off 18. This reason's called Auction 18. It started there, and we moved in January, and in March something called COVID hit. Moved into a brand new building, had 250 people showing up to an auction, packed out house, making good money, everything was rolling good, and COVID hit. And we thought we're going under. It was bad, and we thought this is not good. Well, I told my guys, look, we're gonna go home for 2 weeks, and we're gonna see how this thing goes. We're just gonna go home, see what happens. I said, I can pay y'all. I got enough money in the bank to pay y'all for a couple months. I said, after that, I don't know, but I can get y'all through a couple months.
Right.
And let's just see what happens. So we all went home, and in the meantime, I get a call from Citizens Bank at the time, and they had a bankruptcy, or not bank, maybe a foreclosure is what it was, and they needed to sell a bunch of items. And so I said, guys, do you realize we're closed? Like, I can't sell this stuff. If I buy it, I can't, And they said, well, look, if you just make us an offer, and and I said, I'm gonna make you a really low offer because I don't know how I'm gonna sell it. And lo and behold, I made them an offer. They took it. Well, then I had to call my guys. I said, guys, we're back working. I said, but I don't know how I'm going to sell it. I said, so we're going to be able to go. We have to figure this out.
Right.
So I was the next day. I was on the lawnmower doing all my honeydews my wife had because she was glad I was home. And as I was cutting grass, I came with this crazy idea to do a Facebook Live auction. But I didn't know if it would work because only essential places that sold essential goods could be open. And but we sold furniture, we sold pots and pans, we sold very essential things. So in the meantime, I called my brother-in-law, Brad White, and I said, because he was chief of staff for Tate Reeves at the time, and I called Brad. I said, Brad, I got an idea, but I don't know if I can be open or not. I said, I just want to run it by you. And I told him, I said, look, I'm thinking about doing a Facebook Live auction. The only people who are going to be in the building are just a couple workers. and people can bid online, and then we can, when they come the next day to pick it up, they stay in their car. We're going to have a credit card on file, stay in their car, and we're just going to put their items in their trunk, keep masks on, whatever we got to do, and then we're going to come back in, and we never make contact with the person. Could we do this? And he said, well, let me ask the governor. I'm sitting here with him right now. And so he ran it by him. He said, well, look, sounds like y'all sell essential things. I said, yeah, we're very essential. I mean, what we're selling. People are not going to come to auctions. It's going to be only online through Facebook Live auctions. And man, we're off the races. And I'll be honest with you, through COVID, where a lot of companies were shutting down, we made more money during COVID than we did any other time in my whole career of having my auction. And so COVID was a really good year for us because people were sitting at home watching the auction.
Right.
And I mean,
just like watching QVC or the shopping channel.
Yeah.
Or,
and right after, it was so funny because right after all the, after COVID and people started going back out, I was at Walmart one night and I was walking around and I heard this kid say, Mama, there he is. And I kept on thinking, man, Tim McGraw must be here, because Tim McGraw will be in Faith Hill, sometimes they're in town.
Sure.
And I said, maybe they were shopping in Richland Walmart. And I walk around the corner, this kid's pointing at me. They said, Mama, there he is. And she said, oh, let me tell you why he's saying that. I said, why is that? She said, we watched you every Thursday night. During COVID, you were on our big screen on our TV every Thursday night. We watched Auction 18 on Facebook every Thursday night. And I was like, thank you.
Sounds
I
like
said,
something you need to keep doing.
But we had about 400 or 500 viewers at times watching this crazy idea. And so it was a neat idea because slowly after that, I started seeing a lot of other companies started kind of doing the same idea. I started seeing little boutiques doing Facebook Live videos.
Sure.
So I was proud to see people kind of started doing the same thing, and it worked for people. It helped people stay alive during COVID, kept their businesses alive. So yeah, all that being said, that's the story of Auction 18. Now I have a crew of about 6 or 7 people that work full time for me or with me as a team.
You don't just run out and decide to be an auctioneer.
No.
So do you sound like an auctioneer?
I believe I do.
A Baptist preacher.
Yeah. I'm the fastest talking preaching politician you'll ever meet. So yeah.
So if you were going to auction something, you have to
do it really
practice?
fast. 25, what about 50? What about? Yeah, you have to
just
roll
practice?
with it. Yeah, well, a little bit. You have to, in auctioneer school, they teach you so little of how to do it. As much as they teach the laws of Mississippi. You got to know all the laws.
Sure.
Because you can't sell certain things, right? You can't,
like
a deer head, right? You can't sell a mounted deer head, in the state of Mississippi. It's something they won't let you sell. When you sell cows, you got to know what shots they have to have before you sell them. Real estate, there are all kinds of rules in auctioneering real estate.
You mentioned like Community Bank or somebody like that, banks that repo properties, things of that nature.
That's right.
So you're like talking about selling the house,
yes,
you're selling the property itself, things of that nature.
That's right. And you also have to know, when you have an estate that you're selling, you got to know who is, who's the person to talk to, who's the person not to, who's over it, because you're not talking to the right person that is ultimately the main person over the estate. Then you can get in trouble legally there. Because let's say that you're not over estate and you hire me to come do the auction, when all of a sudden
sell off grandma's property.
Yeah, and all of a sudden here the person that's actually over the estate shows up and said, hey, you weren't supposed to do that.
Right.
Well, you could be in a lawsuit. So you got to know who's over it.
Sure.
You got to have paperwork to show and all that, and it's a lot of laws.
Did you stand in the mirror and practice?
Well, a little bit. It just kind of, but it kind of either has to come naturally or not. I mean, you have to. My dad nicknamed me Jabbo when I was a kid because I jabbered all the time, is what he said.
I'm fixing to say, I can't tell that you're nervous or anything about being on this show because you absolutely can talk.
Yeah, that's right.
You're absolutely right there, Gene. He definitely can talk. All right, so something else that you do, your kids got you into this, I believe, right?
My wife.
Your wife got you.
You
raised goats.
But where I didn't tell you this.
Show goats,
but it started with chickens.
Okay. So all right. So back up and let's talk about the chickens.
Yeah. So my wife. so my wife calls me one day and said, "Hey, I think we need to get the kids showing some livestock, showing some animals."
Now, are y'all real involved in 4-H? I mean, is that?
Oh, we're very involved now. Yeah. At the time, I didn't know what 4-H was.
Okay.
I mean, I wasn't raised around it.
Wife being from Delo.
She knew about 4-H. My wife was she barrel raced, as a youth and a child. Mm-hmm. So my wife knew a lot more about 4-H, a lot more about all those things than I did because of her being a barrel, racing and barrel racing. So she comes to me one day and said, "Look, I think we need to get our kids involved in 4-H. I think it'd be good for them." And I said, Lacey, I don't know nothing about 4-H. I don't know what that means. And so we built our house on a little 13-acre farm, and we didn't even have fence up. We barely had a halfway barn that we were in the middle of building. That my father-in-law helped us get it done. He built it. He retired, and that's all. He just spent time helping us build this first barn. Now we're up to 2 barns, but
That's a whole nother story.
that's right. So my wife called and said, "Hey, let's get some chickens and show them at the fair, and the kids can show them at the fair." And I said, "Okay." Well, so we ordered. So here's what happened: we ordered these chickens. So I'm thinking, like, we're gonna get. I don't know how they're gonna get delivered. She said, "Well, I ordered the chickens." I said, "Okay. Well, where do we pick them up?" She said, "They're gonna come in the mail on X time. You got to pick them at like 4 o'clock in the morning." And I said, well, that's crazy. That's crazy. So we're sitting in bed at 3 o'clock in the morning. We get a call from the United States Postal Service. They call us and say, "Hey, your chickens are here." And you can hear in the background all this chirping.
Sure.
So I'm like halfway asleep. I pull up to our post office in Florence, Mississippi, and they come out with a box of chickens. And I'm sitting there, I said, "Man, we literally have sent some chickens in the mail." Like, if you didn't know this is how it happens, okay? You're learning something today. So I get the chickens and put them in my truck. I'm thinking, what? And I'm
Kentucky Fried.
No, it wasn't even Kentucky Fried. So we get them there, and then of course you have to raise them from chicks all the way up to they're fully grown.
Right.
And so we end up showing them at the fair. And the first year we did terrible. I mean, we didn't win, but we found out there's a lot more to it. So my wife figured out what to do to try to make sure kids could do better. And the next year we won like either reserve or grand champion chickens. I'm like, man, we were raising grand champion chickens. And fast forward for the next few years, we never stopped showing chickens. But then in the meantime, my wife says, "Hey, I think we need to show goats." I'm thinking, goats? What? I said, "What?" So I went to a little auction down in Raleigh, Mississippi, and so there's this sale, and all these goats are going like $2,000 and $1,500. I said, "I'm not paying $1,500 for a goat. This is crazy." And so I'm sitting there watching them sell, and finally this last goat gets up, and they use this term very loosely. They said, "This is a very green goat." And I'm thinking, well, green sounds like money, right? I said, "That's like a good goat." So I raised my hand. I get it for $750. I'm thinking, that's crap. I should not be spending. And all of a sudden, I thought somebody was going to outbid me. Nobody bid again. The guy says, "Sold." I look at my daughter, and she's all smiles. And I said, "I guess we bought our first goat." We named him Champ, and we didn't do the best that year, but we worked hard, learned a lot of things, and so fast forward there, we just kept buying and buying. Now we're at the point where we made the Sale of Champions many years. My daughter has, my son has. Yeah. Made a lot of money for their college, and also to invest back into their program. And so now my daughter's sitting in a very good spot going forward. But in the meantime, we started doing our own breedings, and now we have. I think we have 19 baby goats on the ground right now. I tell people I have 19 kids at my house.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah, literally, 19 kids. So. This year we're going to be selling most of them, and we're keeping maybe 1 or 2 for my son at the show. But
sure.
My daughter's headed out, so we're on the selling side, the breeder side of it.
And I have to ask, what happened to the chickens?
We showed them this the last year. We showed them this year, and then that was it. We sold them all.
We're done. Are they Kentucky Fried?
We're done with chickens. My son does not like the chickens. And,
okay.
My daughter liked it, but my son did not like it.
Does not like the chickens.
No, he's into the goats, but he's into tennis, and he's not nearly as into it as my daughter was.
I got it.
But yeah, it was.
I was just wondering if they might have seen the grease.
Yeah. That's right. But fast forward the 4-H program, and let me put a plug in for them. And Heather Jennings in Rankin County is one of the best agents you can find. And I'm going to tell you, 4-H has helped build my kids' character. It's helped build them to be strong work ethic. My daughter is graduating with. Honors. She's graduating with so many things, and she's got almost a full ride to Mississippi State from scholarships that she's worked hard to get. And so I tell everybody, man, look, as crazy as it sounds, man, 4-H and livestock, it teaches kids how to work. They have to go out there and feed those animals, got to take care, got to clean stalls, and man, they don't want to a lot of times. But they have to learn that work ethic, go out there and work every day. And the only way you're going to get something good in life, you got to work for it.
It's character building.
It's character building, yes.
Yeah.
And so we've been very blessed with 4-H. And so if I can encourage anybody that can do it, man, look, find a way to do it. Because if you got a kid that's wanting to be on his cell phone all the time and be lazy, man, this is the way to get them out of the house and make them do something. and you're raising productive citizens.
And you don't have to live in the country to do it.
No, you don't. You just have a couple acres. I mean, you don't have to have much land. Look, I mean, we have a farm, man. We'll work with families. If families said we want to get in this, we don't know where to raise it, man. We maybe even work with them, help them have a place to keep a goat, and come out to our farm, feed it, take care of it. We just want to see more kids involved in it because it's such a great program. So
wonderful.
Yeah, it's done really well. So
God puts you where He wants you.
That's right. That's exactly right.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Sounds very intriguing and fun. So let's fast forward a little bit. Let's get to current day, back to where we started. Now you're a representative in the State House. So first day on the job, describe it to me. You walked in the door, said you'd never been to the Capitol before, ever.
Yeah,
and you
pretty
walked
much,
in the door and you met this guy.
Well, look, when they went to, let me back up. My first time before I got elected, after the primary, and I won the primary, and I knew I didn't have anybody running in the general. I did go to the Capitol and meet with the speaker, and I did meet with the at the time. Well, actually, I'm sorry, it was Philip Gunn was speaker at the time, still at that moment. And then I met with our new speaker, Jason White. But that was the first time. But but then the first time I go in there with all the people and everybody there, man, it was overwhelming. It was like taking a big old fire hose and trying to drink out of it. And it's a lot. It's a lot. You learning the rules of this thing, how everything rolls, all the deadlines you have to meet, when you need to have a bill in, when this has been. Man, it's a lot. And then in our first year, we took on some pretty, heated things, some harder things that, for me, you start thinking, you make promises on the campaign trail and you got to keep them. And so when those things come up, you have to vote however you promise somebody. And the hard thing is that you got leadership that may say, hey, we want you to vote for this, but you made a promise to your people that you vote this way. And so when you do, you got to stick to your guns for your people.
Sure.
Because that makes you a liar. And I'm not going to be a liar. And so that's some things I learned early on is not to make, now I don't make promises as much as say, look, I don't want to make a promise. I don't know what I'm going to be dealing when I get there. But at the same time, I'm very true to my word. If I tell somebody I'm going to do something or vote a certain way, I'm going to stay with it.
That's how you do it.
Yeah, I'm not going to, move from that. And it's just that's who I am, and that's what I'm going to do. And so, integrity means more to me than staying up at the Capitol.
Sure.
I'd rather not be at the Capitol than lose my integrity. Mm-hmm. And so I'm going to always be true blue to that. So, but yeah, overwhelming. It'll be the number one word, and learning the whole process, and but also a lot of fun. To me, I like people, and I'm a people person. So it's neat to meet all the different personalities and egos, and that all comes with it. You got some folks that just all of it. And it's good to do that. So that's probably. Well,
I know Gene's sitting right here, but I'm gonna put him on the spot. So his first year in, how would you say he did?
He did great. He did really good. He struggled sometimes with some of those votes that he was getting a lot of pressure on from the leadership, and that happens. He stuck to what he believed in and voted the way he was supposed to vote, and everything turned out fine. So he stayed true to himself first, and stayed true to his people. So he did what he's supposed to do. He's done a good job.
Yeah. Well, did you see him on his first day?
Yeah, I did.
How was he?
So he actually called me before he got there. We had talked a couple of times. Well, several times we had talked when he was running, and then when he got there, because Tom had introduced him to me, and that first day. Look, the first day of any new session, I don't care what, it's uncontrolled chaos, because you have all of those new people coming in, and you have everybody's family of some sort. There's very few people that don't bring at least their wife up there on that first day. So you have all of these people crammed into the chamber. The galleys are all full, the whole halls are full, and it's just at 12 o'clock on the first Tuesday after the first Monday. It is nuts. And so all of his freshman class was walking around like, what have I gotten into? but their class has been a good class. They've got some good people in it, and they've settled down and got to work. And You know, it's overwhelming most of the time. Sometimes you can't even remember where the bathroom's at when you really need to know where the bathroom's at.
Right.
Yeah.
Did you just latch on to Gene during the first part of the session?
Man, I let anybody let me hang on to. Just listen. My wife said it best. She said, "Less is more."
Yeah.
Less is more. She said, just remember that, because my wife is very to herself, and she's not one that's going to talk just to talk. She's very much
she
the
sounds
opposite.
very grounded the way you describe her.
Yes, very grounded, very godly woman, just a good person. And she told me, she said, less is more. So just remember that. So I tried to keep my mouth shut, tried not to ask too many questions, just listen.
Right.
And because I watched the people that talk too much, and they're usually the ones people are like, okay, we don't, just push those people to the side. So I just tried to listen, and the first year especially. Even the second year, you're still listening. You know, you're still trying to learn, and I think that's the key thing is just listen, learn, don't talk unless you just really, really need to talk. You know, and I was blessed to get to do some bills on the floor. You know, and I was asked to do a few this year. So I think you just wait your turn. It's going to come. And you'll get the chance to do some things. You just got to be patient.
Well, you're on Agriculture Committee, Transportation, Judd B, Universities and Colleges, Banking and Financial, and Municipal. So I would love to talk about university and colleges, because that would be a deep subject that we could save for another day. We'll have you back, because I have a lot of opinion on that one.
Oh yeah.
But out of all the committees you're sitting on, what would you say would be the one you're most proud of, like legislation-wise this year? What would you say that's coming out of the legislature you felt like that you'd be most proud of?
Yeah, I mean, I enjoy. Let me start off by saying which one I enjoy probably the most. I mean, ag, of course, is going to be the one.
Sure.
I tend to love to have, just because we're such an agricultural family.
Sure.
Now, as much as legislation, there wasn't tons of legislation that came out in that this year. So I would say, I mean, there were some good things passed, but nothing just major. Judd B is probably one that's most interesting for me, because I'm not a lawyer, and Gene's the same way. We're either one lawyers, and we're on that Judd B together. So you get to hear a bunch of lawyers talk, and half the time you're like, I have no clue, because they talk in different terms a lot of times, and so I've learned a lot on Judd B and on some things. I'm not sure. I mean, of course, we had some things, transportation. That came up. I know we had the concrete trucks and total weights. That was kind of a little bit of a controversial thing with some folks, and so that's probably big legislation for us this year.
And you're on banking and finance.
Yeah, banking and finance. And banking and finance, we hadn't had really anything major this year on banking and finance. We had just a couple general type bills that natural that kind of come up every year, different ones. So nothing major on banking and finance. So I would say that really I wasn't on education, which is that was on purpose.
Right.
Thank
goodness.
Yeah, I've heard that. Yeah, somebody warned me about the controversial ones, and that education was one of them. But I've got an opinion on those, of course. But yeah, so I think that probably transportation probably had some of the biggest legislation out of those.
That came out of that.
Yeah, I would say.
How did you feel about HB1 and doing away with taxes? And
I'll be
how
honest.
Did you feel on all that?
I was actually excited about HB1, the original bill out of the House. Like I think that nobody wants taxes to go up. Now that part, nobody wants taxes to go up. I think we all are in the same agreement on that. And that's what I told everybody. You have to kind of break all that down the right way, and on that HB1, because that's not the one that passed. But if you go to HB1, what I liked about it was it took care of some money for PERS. Right? It had on there that you got $100,000 that was going to come from the lottery. That was originally going to transportation.
Add some more zeros.
Yeah. 100 million. I'm sorry, 100 million. Yes, I'm thinking small. 100 million. 100 million that was going to come from the lottery.
Right.
And then the gas money, the gas tax was going to go toward transportation, which transportation needs a steady stream to get them where they need to be. And people don't understand that about transportation. The federal government matches what the states give. And so if we can't hit a certain match, the federal government's not going to match it. So people have to realize that, and they don't realize that, I don't think, a lot of times.
And your brother-in-law is real good over there.
Oh, yeah, yes. He's doing a great job and worked hard. I'm not saying it because he's just my brother-in-law.
Right.
Everybody I talk to that works there.
But no, he's doing a really good job.
Yeah, they've enjoyed working with him, and I think the mentality and it's a good atmosphere right now
Right.
with him being in charge. I think they're doing a great job. But the other thing is you have to have a steady increase there. And so I think I'm a guy that's okay with the gas tax because, and let me make sure, I don't like to pay it, but I also understand that, man, everybody that travels through the state of Mississippi, don't matter what truck, 18-wheeler, don't matter what car, it don't matter who rides through our state, they're paying that gas tax as well. It's not, I mean, so we're getting money from every aspect.
Everybody that passes through.
Yeah, everybody that uses our roads. It's
Yeah.
a use tax. I'm a use tax kind of guy.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not for putting tax on what you make. I'm for use tax and for I'm just not a. That's kind of where I'm at on things. So I think HB1 was moving toward that direction. Was more of a use tax than taxing your
Sure.
your earnings. So that's just me. That's kind of a consumption tax, I guess
Yeah,
you
it's
say.
consumption is what
I'm
it is.
consumption tax
Right.
mindset. I think when Mike Huckabee ran for president, I remember him saying something about that consumption tax, doing away with the with the IRS and
Like a
just
national
going
sales tax.
just one large sales tax. That way everybody's paying the same thing. It don't matter if you go buy a bag of Doritos or if you go buy a yacht. You're going to be paying the same tax, right? And I think that is the most fair tax you can get to. That means everybody's paying the consumption tax, but you get to keep your money that you earn. If you don't want to go buy something, don't go buy it. It's a consumption tax. So HB1 looked more like the consumption tax model that I actually think is a good model. So I actually was more on board with HB1 than any other bill.
How'd your constituents feel about it?
Man, most people I talked to about HB1, when I explained it to them and talked them through it, most of them were like, man, I kind of like what y'all are doing with HB1. Most of them were okay with it when you really sit down and talk to them about it.
Because it's complicated.
Yeah, it is very complicated.
We tried to break it down in here a couple of times, when we were beginning of the session.
Senate kept messing
In the
it up.
Senate, right? we would remind Senator Kirby of that.
Yeah.
But we tried to break it down several times here, because it is complicated.
Absolutely. It is very complicated, and I think with the Senate version, you're a little bit longer getting it done as far as getting the income tax gone. I think with the way we had it, the income tax can be gone a little sooner, and people are going to be saving as well. You had the grocery tax was reducing the grocery tax. We're making sure PERS had money. We're making sure MDOT was funded. And all the things that needed to take place, it was taking place within that HB1. So I was actually okay with it. When I first heard it, I think it was in November that they brought it out to us to kind of hear it for the first time. When I heard it, I went to Trey Lamar. I said, man, that's a consumption tax. He said, exactly. I said, that's what you're trying to get to is consumption tax for, say, Mississippi. I said, I think it's a fair tax. I think most people you talk to will say it's a fair tax. So if you don't want to use it, don't use it. If you want to use it, we pay for it. So
Right.
very simple.
And normally a consumption tax is it's pennies.
Yeah, that's
It's
right.
usually pennies on the dollar.
That's
So
right. That's right.
It's just less than what you would pay really in an income tax.
That's exactly right.
And that's where people get to pocket more of that money.
Yeah.
And if you don't want to go buy $1 million yacht, don't go buy one. Just buy $500,000.
That's right.
If you don't
That's
want
right.
to pay
That's
the,
right.
If you don't want to pay the tax on it.
Exactly. You think how you want to spend it. It's up to you.
It is up to you. And all right, so wonderful conversation there. The other thing in that's going on at the legislature that is a big deal is state retirement.
It's a huge deal.
That's a huge deal.
Yeah.
So did your phone get blown up over PERS?
Here's the thing. It did last year. Last year was big because we tried to change the board up, and it was a big ordeal. This year, if I did get a call, I had an easy explanation. I would tell them, I said, listen, go to December, and maybe I shouldn't say this, but go to December board meeting for PERS board, and they voted for Tier 5. Yeah. They voted Tier 5 through the PERS board that we ultimately.
Senator Kirby sat right here and said we did exactly what.
That's
the
what I'm
board
saying.
wanted us
So
to
we
do.
did what you want. You can't. Beggars can't be choosers.
Right,
I mean,
right.
last year you didn't want us to touch the PERS board, which we end up not doing.
Right.
Now we did exactly what the PERS board wanted by passing Tier 5.
And you want to fuss about
and
it.
you're still mad. So I tell everybody, don't call us, call the PERS board.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just saying we did what y'all ultimately wanted. Y'all trusted your PERS board, and this is what the PERS board voted for. So, and I'm not beating the PERS board up. That is what they voted for, 8-1 in their meeting in December. I mean, I've seen the numbers. It's there. It's right there.
So let me add something to this. So I've had a lot of calls and all since we passed the HB1 about PERS. That's the only thing they've called about. They haven't called about anything else. But the calls that I've had have all been people that were already retired,
Yep.
or were fixing to retire, and they're concerned about the state being able to hire teachers or nurses because there's not going to be a good retirement. So I started asking people that are in nursing school and people that are going to school to be educators, that want to be teachers, and I've talked to about, I don't know, 30 or 40. I call them kids. They're not kids. They're young adults.
Young adults, right?
That are in college right now, and every one of them said they didn't want to be in PERS. They just wanted to put their money in an IRA and go on. They didn't really want any part of PERS. They didn't want their money tied up like that. They thought they could do a lot better with an IRA than they could with PERS. So you got a disconnect with the.
It's generational, basically.
Yes, generational disconnect between what the people who've gone through PERS, and they know that they've got a good deal, and they know that deal's gone come March the 1st. So, but they don't understand that the young people out there right now that are going to school to do exactly what they did, don't want what they had. So,
You raise an interesting point, because having kids, I've got my youngest is just now turning 30, and he's been trading online since he was in Ole Miss. He's been trading online for 10 years. He's used to doing it. He loves Bitcoin and all these things that these young people are doing, and it makes total sense. I even sat right here and said, you didn't give us people on PERS the opportunity. Where's the bridge for me to go to Tier 5? Because I might want to go over there. Now, obviously, you don't want a bunch of people leaving PERS, because that would just kill the system. But, but I mean, it would have been nice to have been able to have some more control. But I see exactly what you're saying, Jim, because that can't be just isolated to the people you've talked to. That's got to be across the board.
I believe it's pretty much across the board. I think it's. I mean, the young people don't think. Number one is they don't like. I talk to people at UMMC. They have a real problem hiring nurses up there, because they can go to Baptist and they don't take all that money out of their check for PERS.
Right.
So they may be making the same exact dollar per dollar per hour, but they're getting more. They're bringing home more money from Baptist than they are at UMC, and that's causing UMC a problem.
Right.
So they've got the secondary program where they can put them into IRAs and rather than putting them into PERS. So
well, the other problem on the state level, my brother is administrator of the state hospital, Mississippi State Hospital. The other problem they run into is that he can't keep nurses, because those nurses can go somewhere else and make more money. And so, and of course, Tier 5 could, it could affect them a little bit, because the retirement's kind of the reason you work for the state. But the other thing is, though, let's backtrack. We need to find a way to give these nurses in state hospitals like that more money to pay these nurses. I mean, I don't know where that comes from, but I mean, they need some good nurses there, and they can't compete. Like, our state hospitals cannot compete with the private sector. No. They can't. And so they're struggling keeping good quality workers there, because they can go over here and make more money. So that's another whole other factor, is we need to figure out a way as legislators as well to see how we can help maybe get them more funded to have more money to compete.
Are we talking about basically just one slice of an 8-slice pizza here, though?
Yeah.
I mean, because if you look at it as we're looking at an individual thing, we're targeting because we're talking about PERS. But when you start getting off into the state hospitals versus private hospitals, now we're talking about a larger pie.
Yep.
Right? Because now we've got a whole boatload of other issues to deal with, just to get back down to paying nurses.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yep.
I can go off into the healthcare field and really.
Let's don't go over that.
Yeah, I was fixing to say I could rail a long time about hospital needs and beds and oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I mean, that to me is just messed up. We need to rethink that entire strategy.
Absolutely.
Frank's opinion.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe we share it, but it would be a lift.
Yeah,
I guess we would say, because Farm Bureau and the hospital administration and all these other lobbyist groups would really be against Frank's idea.
Yeah.
They would not like my idea. But anyway, not about me today. Anyway, Lance, future plans. What do you see? Where's Lance going?
Man, I'm gonna try to do the best job I can as a representative, and I'm the most unplanned out person you'll ever meet.
You know, I kind of get that.
Yeah, I ain't planned anything in my life.
I kind of get
man,
that.
My wife can tell you I'm so unplanned. She has been on the ride with me all these years, but I'm literally.
She definitely sounds like a great woman.
Yes,
definitely a keeper.
Yeah, she's one that stayed the same job. She's been a counselor and she's been a teacher all her life. And pretty much 2 schools she's worked at. Or
she's
3.
raised you well.
Yeah, raised me well. And I'm the guy that comes in, hey, I got an idea. And she's like, oh, boy.
Oh, boy.
She's shaking her head. Yeah, we were talking last night about retirement. How's it really going to retire one day? He said, no, you're not. No, you're not. You're never going to. I don't really know. I mean, I'm one of these guys. I wait and I just see where the opportunity is. And if God opens that door, I walk through it. Sometimes it's a window. Sometimes you're just looking through a window and say, that's not for me. And sometimes the door you walk through. And so it's all about timing. Everything's about timing. So if, of course, I love agriculture. I mean, that's something that my heart is for, especially after being so involved in what we're doing now. So agriculture is definitely something I could see myself in the future doing something with, possibly. Other than that, I don't know. It's kind of one of those things I'm just waiting and seeing where it leads. But right now, I'm just, enjoying right where I'm at, and trying to be obedient and available and letting God do the rest.
Still preaching anywhere?
Man, I'm filling in. I just do fill-in stuff. I filled in at the Andy Gibson church here a while back. I filled in at my home church, First Baptist Florence. We went back to the church that I worked at for 15 years. We went back as church members. And now I get to sit in the balcony and just poke my wife. And if we don't like what the preacher's saying, I can be like, hey, So I had never been to do that all those years.
Right.
I'm just enjoying going to church and just being involved there. And just, somebody, Andy, like I said, Andy Gibson's, I filled in for him, filled in at First Baptist. First Baptist Richmond's called me and I filled in there. So when somebody calls, I still fill in, but I'm just enjoying not having been tied down to one church or necessarily. So,
wonderful.
Yeah. So enjoying just trying to learn the job as a legislator. That's what I'm trying to do now. So just trying to be the best legislator I can be. Let's say that way.
We're glad to have you on the show. Thank you, Gene, for bringing you. We get to know a little bit about you. I mean, you are in our sister city.
Yeah,
you
absolutely.
are in the Rankin County delegation.
Exactly.
So it really is nice to get to know you and to learn a little bit about you. And
that's right.
Wish you great success in the future. And thank you, Gene, for bringing you in.
Yeah, well, thanks for having us, man. Yeah,
absolutely. Look forward to having you back.
Yeah,
we can talk about a lot more stuff.
A lot.
We can talk about a lot more stuff. All right, what we're going to do is step aside just a second. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about what's going on in the city of Pearl. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Hello, I'm Mayor Wyndham, and I'm thrilled to show you the city creating its own future. Pearl is located in Rankin County, the fastest growing county in Mississippi, and there's no question why. Access to great schools, even better shopping, and unbridled beauty make Pearl a town that truly embodies its name. And with a truly exceptional team of first responders, public safety is another key component of our success. With fantastic housing opportunities from quaint suburban neighborhoods to gorgeous lakefront properties, there's a place for you here in Pearl. You can't beat the location. Right outside of Pearl is the crossroads of the South, where Interstate 20 meets Interstate 55. From here you can travel anywhere within the state or the country. Or you can choose to stay right here in Pearl or experience the small town atmosphere, community pride, and heart of the local residents.
Welcome back into This Week in Pearl, where we just finished an Under the Dome segment where we got to meet District 62 Representative Lance Varner. We appreciate Representative Newman bringing him in. It was fantastic getting to know some of the other delegates from the other areas of our county, and it's great to meet him from Florence. Fantastic gentleman. Know he represents that area and his constituents very well. So thank you, Lance, for coming in and seeing us. Looking forward to having you back. All right, so what's going on this week in Pearl? Well, continuing to talk about it, we are doing in-person absentee voting. So if you want to come vote absentee in person, head over to the clerk's office at City Hall from the hours of 8 to 5, and you can vote absentee. Be sure and exercise your right to vote for mayor and alderman. that is on the ballot this year. So if you want to do absentee, 8 to 5, 8 a.m., 5 p.m., Monday through Friday in the clerk's office at City Hall. Main Street Pearl is doing their Summer Sunset Concert Series. It's in full swing, and this week is no different. They have a big lineup this week. The first week was interrupted by storms, so a little bit of a different schedule lineup here. On Friday, May the 16th, you're going to have Eric Woods and the Way Down Band. They sing a Southern blues style, so I think you're really going to love hearing them. And then rescheduled is Soundcheck the Band, and they are a rocking band that you're really going to like on Saturday night. So this weekend coming up is two really big nights, Friday night and Saturday night. So you're going to have Southern blues on Friday night and a lot of good rock and roll on Saturday night. So be sure and check that out. All right outside City Hall complex out here in the Grassy area. You can't miss it. And spring cleanup is running wild right now. This is the last week for spring cleanup. If you have limbs, leaves that you want to get out to the street, City Public Works Department will come by and pick all of that up. You can also take furniture, odds and ends, just very like mattresses and stuff that you're throwing away. You can take all of that to the compactor, and for free for Pearl residents. If you're outside of Pearl, you will still have to pay the fee, but it is free for Pearl residents. They will not be accepting hazardous material, no hazardous liquids, no explosive materials, obviously, and no tires will be accepted. For more information, dial the compactor directly by calling 601-932-9222. That gets you straight to the city compactor by dialing that phone number. Hey, look, I've had a great time today introducing you to Lance Varner, wonderful, wonderful representative from District 62. Thanks again to Gene Newman for bringing him in. So until next time, I'm your host, Frank Hutton. I'll see you next week.